Hello and welcome back to the Low Carb MD podcast. Today's a special day for me. I have Jen Isenhart. She's made a huge movie that's awesome. That's really going to impact our community. I want to make it clear I have no financial interest in this film at all, but I am in it, and my patients are in it, and I think it's a powerful movie. I know it's a powerful movie because I've seen the rough cut, and I'm super impressed. It's even better than I thought it would be. It's called Fat Fiction, and if you wanted something to convince your neighbors and friends and people who are on the fence or people who are totally against low carb, I think this film does a fair job of, when I say fair, I mean very fair, as far as trying to present the data and then allowing the person to decide. I don't think it's going to be taken as a propaganda piece like so many other films have in the past. And I think it's a fair and balanced thing. So Jen, tell us your story and how you got called to do this movie and why you felt called to do it, and what's happening now and how we're going to get it out so we could all see it.
Yeah. So we've been working on the film for about 2 years. And it was about 2 years ago that I took a nutrition class called the Restart Program. It's a 5-week sugar detox class. And I sort of always knew that I had a problem with sugar. And I thought, oh, this would be good for me, take a sugar detox class. And the first day of the class, the nutritionist said, well, not only should you not be eating sugar, but you need to be eating a lot more fat, including saturated fat. And I was shocked. I mean, I was very surprised. And that was the start of my own personal inquiry into this whole idea of saturated fat, because my degree is in journalism, and I've been a news journalist, television journalist my whole career. And I can't tell you how many stories I did interviewing nutritionists and dietitians telling us that we all need to quit eating saturated fat and replace it with processed vegetable spreads, that was more healthy for us.
Yeah, and you finished the movie about 3 weeks too early because now more data is coming out. They're looking at the food guidelines now, and they're saying saturated fat, we don't have data, to say that it's causing a problem finally after all these years. And it's kind of, it's the timing is coming out, right perfectly with what you're talking about. And it fits right in with what we're talking about clinically that we're seeing.
Yeah. So yeah, it just was a fascinating topic to me, and some films have kind of touched on it in different ways, but I never felt, I didn't see a film out there that really stepped through the history and the data and interviewed people and patients who were trying this new approach, which isn't so new after all, but that were trying the low carb, high fat approach, and lo and behold, reversing chronic disease, as we found with your patients. So
yeah, and I think that's an important point. I think there's so many of us have seen The Magic Pill, for instance. That really influenced me a lot in my career choice and what I'm doing now. And it really did. And it's because I was impressed by the anecdotes, the stories of the people reversing disease, and you do an even better job at that, of showing it. And, what an honor it was to have my patients there. And that was one of the greatest moments of my career, watching that and seeing their lives getting better and seeing them in follow-up doing even better. I see some of them, I think, oh my gosh, they're going to be upset. I'm a few pounds down since the movie was filmed, and a lot of my patients have lost a significant amount of weight since then, and they're doing unbelievably well, with being off their insulin still and A1C in the normal range from being a disaster situation. And so it's so exciting to see that and to hear the stories, and maybe you could just touch on a couple of the stories without giving the whole movie away, but some of the stories that really impacted you along the way.
Yeah. Well, one of the gals that we filmed with here in Boise is type 2 diabetic, and she kind of leads off the film. And, she, all of her adult life, was following the guidelines and doing everything she was told to do. She's a very motivated gal. It's not lack of motivation. She's not lazy. She's not, just a glutton and a sloth. She was following the guidelines. She was trying to eat a very low fat diet, and it just wasn't working for her. And she continued to get on larger and larger doses of insulin. And so we follow her in the film, and she's still on her journey. But it's pretty amazing what happens for her when she switches to low carb, high fat diet. And it happens very quickly for her in terms of noticing the difference and seeing results with her weight and her blood sugar. And I won't give away the whole story, but yeah, that was really neat to see that journey. And then your story, I was so excited when Bret Scher was the one who told me about you and about your practice and about how you had changed your practice from standard of care to a low carb approach, and what happened with your patients and how it kind of started with your own personal journey. And I thought, wow, that's a fascinating story. You know, a physician himself struggling with obesity and becoming pre-diabetic. So that, I love your story. And then having the trickle down effect to all of your patients and how your patients have been able to regain their health again, reclaim their health. I mean, wouldn't you take that over winning the lottery? I mean, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Jen, what you're doing, what we're doing, there's no amount of money that can pay for this. You know, I think we've always made that point with the podcast. You know, our Patreon supporters have allowed us to get keep the messages going, getting knowledge to docs. When we're at conferences now, Tro and I are blown away by how many docs are coming up to us, cardiothoracic surgeons, interventional cardiologists who are now low carb, because they've looked at the data and they were able to step back and say, what are we doing here? You know, Nadir Ali is a huge leader. We had the honor of having him on the podcast talking from a cardiovascular standpoint. Bret Scher, who's one of my favorite guys. We did residency together, of all things, and now he's the program director for Diet Doctor. Poor guy, that's a fledgling institution that has like how many billions of viewers now. I mean, it's incredible what they're doing, and having him at the helm is unbelievable. You know, what he's doing. They're doing CME for docs now on low carb. And so there's a lot of stuff that's happening that we just had to be patient with. And your movie is going to turn the tide. I think it's one of those, this is a ground, I don't even know the word you want to say, where this is going to shift the soil. This is a tsunami that's coming now, because I know on your footsteps, on your heels, there's several movies coming out that are going to be saying the same darn thing and reaffirming what you're saying. And I don't think it's a competition thing, because I think people who watch your movie are going to watch the other movies too, and they're going to want to educate themselves and say, okay, is this bias? Is it not? What does the data show? And so it's very exciting. That's why when I saw your approach to this film, talking about the new clinical guidelines that Doug Reynolds from Low Carb USA is working on, and that I'm a part of, it's so important, because we have to have a standard of care where we're helping people, where we're reversing disease process. And this movie plays a huge role in that. And I think once people are educated, I think the problem is doctors and a lot of us have a knee-jerk reflex that says, oh, it's a fad diet, it's going away. And that was my first. When I heard Atkins, I said, it's a joke. Everyone's going to have a heart attack. But then I had to look at the data and reassess what I was doing and what my clinical success was doing. And I'm hoping we have a lot of docs who are very open-minded, or at least will acknowledge or learn and educate themselves a little bit, because that's what happens for so many on Twitter that I'm dealing with now. They're saying, I started looking, I can't believe the data. Now I started doing it with my patients, and they're seeing the same thing I'm seeing. We're not doing anything magic here. We're just using science and physiology and understanding how the body works, how the brain works. That's a huge component of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's remarkable, the campaign of resistance against it, though. So I really hope that our film shows people in a way. I mean, I spent a lot of time trying to just really lay out the case for low carb, high fat, and how it works and why it works. And we were so fortunate that the low carb community just was so willing to help and jump on board. You spent days with us. Teicholz spent a bunch of time with us, Hallberg, Professor Tim Noakes, all of these people, Jason Fung, Bret Scher, gave us their time, and these are very busy people, and helped us tell this story in a way that when I was writing this film, honestly, I was writing it for like my mom and dad, and for their friends, and for people. A lot of us inside, a lot of people inside the low carb community understand a lot of this stuff pretty well, but I really wanted to lay it out in a way that somebody who hadn't been exposed to this information before could understand it and could understand why, oh, that really makes sense. It's not calories in, calories out. It's this insulin model of weight gain and how, carbohydrates affect your blood sugar and why it does make such a negative impact on our bodies when we eat sugar versus eating fat. And anyhow, so there was a lot of time and attention spent on telling the story in a way that's understandable to people. So I really hope it
well, and you did such a great job. I mean, the other thing you did that really impressed me when you were telling me about it, I thought, I wonder how that's going to play out, right? Looking at the continuous glucose monitors and seeing people who are metabolically healthy, they're not diabetics or morbidly obese or anything like that. A couple of the guys might have been a little bit overweight, but nothing like society of what we're seeing in general. And you see their tracings compared to what the standard of care is, and you think, oh my good, that's impactful. When you see that, and with my patients, trust me, I just had this conversation with someone who was arguing with me about it. I said, look, slap on a CGM, continuous glucose monitor, eat the way I'm recommending, and then go to the other diet that you're recommending and see. I mean, it is absolutely stunning. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, just as an aside, I hope I don't get myself in trouble with this one, but my daughter came home crying today because she was with a nutritionist who is a newly trained nutritionist who hasn't seen one patient yet. And my daughter says, I don't really eat breakfast anymore. I wait till lunchtime. And so this nutritionist went on a tirade about how the keto diet is causing anorexia and people are having eating disorders and all this stuff as a result. She's like, I'm just not hungry. But at the same time, the person was eating a brownie, right? A brownie and orange juice for breakfast and saying, you need to carb load. You need to carb load. And my poor daughter's like, I said, well, look, let me give you my talk I'm giving in Denver. And then you can go back and educate someone, or some people you're not going to be able to educate. But the point is, when you start seeing the data, I said, don't argue the point. Say, hey, my dad will buy you a CGM, continuous glucose monitor. He'll pay for it. Put it on and do his diet for a week and do yours. And then we'll not argue. Just say, we'll know the numbers. You don't even have to tell us. He can get it right to his cell phone if you like to prove your point. But guess what? No one's going to do that because the data is so clear. I think what we're seeing.
That's actually one of my favorite stories in the whole film, and that you're talking about there. And that's where we took continuous glucose monitors and we put them on 3 metabolically healthy people who take no medications, and they were not pre-diabetic. Their insulin levels were in a decent range, and we had them eat a ketogenic diet for a week, and then we flipped them and we had them eat the USDA MyPlate meal plan for a week, and the difference was tremendously disturbing.
Yeah, it is. It is disturbing if you don't know the data. And I've seen enough, and I had my CGM already, so I was laughing, but I know what's going to happen because I know what happens. And it's clear. It's like, if you lay in the sun all day long, I can guarantee you're going to get sunburn. If you're there with no sunscreen and you're laying in the direct sun. So it's things like that. When you see it, it's very, very much common sense. And also, the story about the pilot, the helicopter pilot, is very powerful because, and I'll tell you, and you can tell his story a little bit, and I will one up you on that.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. So we found out about Brian Gadet. He's an Apache helicopter pilot, a captain in the U.S. Army, and he got grounded because of an autoimmune disorder, but he didn't really know what was wrong with him. He'd been confined to Army food. He on deployment, he needed to eat at the mess halls and the food that was available to him, which is dictated by the dietary guidelines. So a lot of carbohydrates, pasta, rice, bread, cereals. And this is a guy who's, he's in the Army. He's working out, running, working out 5 times a week. And yet he was gaining weight and becoming sick. And finally to the point where he got so sick that he couldn't fly anymore. And that launched this, almost a year-long ordeal of going to visit all of these different medical professionals, trying to figure out what was wrong with him, and nobody could figure out what was wrong with him. And very interestingly, not one of these medical specialists asked him about his nutrition. So they're doing, neurological tests, they're doing cardiac tests, they're like trying to figure out, what could it be? No one asked him about his nutrition. And so he and his wife were finally like, okay, well, I guess, we've got to figure this out for ourselves. And luckily for them, they knew someone who had suffered an autoimmune disorder and who had reversed their chronic disease through diet alone and through, basically ketogenic diet and cutting out grains, sugars, and starches. And so yeah, so you'll have to see the story to see how it ends. But yeah, it's pretty fascinating. And in fact, the other thing that's fascinating is, I mean, you see this, you're in the front lines, the obesity epidemic. The Army is missing its recruiting goals because there aren't enough 17 to 24-year-olds that are fit enough for boot camp.
Yeah, we're in a disaster. We're in a disaster course. Yeah, we're in a disaster course, and I want to upstep you on one that the podcast will probably be released either right before or right after this. So I'm not giving up HIPAA violations or anything like that. But I met Raj, who's a pilot. I met him in Boca Raton, one of the nicest guys around. He has a voice like James Earl Jones, great voice, great guy, but he wanted to hug me, and I said, why? He goes, because I know Jason Fung, and you probably hugged him. He saved my life. And I said, really? So we started talking. Turns out he was grounded because his doctor was saying you need to be, he goes, it's been 8 years, you should go on insulin because your sugars, his A1C, everything's out of control. Started doing low carb, intermittent fasting, and reversed his diabetes. A1C is totally normal now. All of his stuff got normalized. So this guy would have lost his career, but he lost 90 pounds, got his life back, and he got a letter from the FAA and saying, we consider you zero risk of anything. You have full privileges. Basically expunging diabetes from his medical records. And that's unbelievable. This is a guy, how much money does that cost? Career, it's his passion. It's not even that he needed the money. He did well before that, but his passion in life was going to be taken away from him because no one ever said, hey, why don't we cut your carbs and see what happens? And we're seeing that at the conferences. These stories, people, I mean, our podcast could be every day and we could tell someone else's story. That's how powerful what we're seeing is, and when that the excitement I have for your movie, because I know it's going to convince a lot of docs, a lot of people, they're going to be dragged to see it. And the other thing is, look, if you have a vested interest, if you have a conflict of interest where you're selling steak or you're selling eggs or something like that, then I say, well, is this just propaganda? So what you have to do is look back at all these movies that have been made and say, who made it and why? Mm-hmm. You really have to question that, because when you have people who invested millions of dollars in pea protein and they're telling everyone to eat pea protein, there may be a conflict of interest. Maybe there's not, but for me, I'm going to question that. So that's just me. I'm a doc and I kind of think that way and say, well, what's your motivation? Right. But when you have a hug from someone like Raj and his family, and you talk to other people from Mexico City who flew in because their life got saved by low carb and keto, no amount of money is going to pay that. And that's what Tro and I talk about on the podcast is like, look, having that, knowing we're making an impact, that's why we went to medicine, not to drive a Ferrari, right? Yeah. I mean, we came into medicine to help people, and we see it. And again, your movie is going to make a huge impact on my community. And guess what? It makes my job easier, because when people are healthier and understand, it's like we're keeping the answer from people and they're getting sicker and sicker, but we don't tell them the answer, right? And that's a big, big problem.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So so that's one thing I want to mention is we did not take any food industry funding in the production of this film, nor did we take any pharmaceutical industry funding. This was a fully independent production. We did do an Indiegogo campaign, and we got, a bunch of individual small donations from individuals. And then we also did a kind of this little nonprofit fundraiser and got some donations from individuals during that fundraiser as well. But yeah, there's no industry money backing this film of any kind. So it's definitely an independent production, and I hope people will see it that way and understand that this is about telling the story about how we got it so wrong about fat, and hopefully help people turn that around.
Yeah, and I think we all have a passion for that. And we say, for me, when I go speak, and what I'll do is wherever we show it here in San Diego, anyone who wants to do it at their church or a movie theater, and Jen, about the distribution stuff.
Yeah.
I'll come speak for free and do a question and answer. I'll stand in the lion's den. Whoever wants to challenge anything in the movie, I'd be glad to sit there and talk to him, because I've looked at the data and I know the data and I know my clinical experience. And I'll probably have about 12, 15, 20 patients there at that screening, and they'll be glad to tell their story. Because I think it's important when you see a real life saved and changed. It's no, to me, they're not anecdotes. They're my patients and people I care about. And I know the path they were on. It's like, again, I know I hammer this point, but it's so true. As a matter of fact, someone who's become a really great friend of mine, and just he's an incredible person, is Ben Bickman. Ben Bickman, in preparation for Denver, I said, Ben, I saw something you did, and I just really want to use it. He goes, Brian, here's my slide set. Take everything out of there you want and use it, because I trust your integrity and what you're doing. Is like anything I can do to help. So, people like that, when you see what they're doing, and he says, every chronic disease, non-infectious, is related to insulin resistance. Not related, causal from insulin resistance. And he's a very specific with his words. And I said, Ben, do you mean most or all? He says all. Find one that's not. And I said, okay. And I said, causally or associated with? He says, causally. I'm okay. So this is a scientist who does not, I know him, I've known him for the last couple of years, and I know where he's coming from, and he's saying causally all. So you have a tough argument to talk to one of the top researchers in the world. We kind of make jokes on our podcast about the ivory tower guys, but guess what? Ben did it. He put his money where his mouth is, and they did, and I'm going to present this in Denver. They took 11 women diagnosed with diabetes with markedly elevated A1C, put them on 90 days of lifestyle only, no exercise, just nutrition. Average A1C went from, I believe, 9.8 to 5.6 in 11 patients in a row with lifestyle. Wow. No drugs, none. They didn't give any diabetes drugs to these people. And they all lost weight. They felt better. Their cholesterol numbers all got better. Dr. Unwin did a similar study with 154 patients in a row, same results. So the data is there, guys. It is there, and there's zero question about it at this point. We have the data. It's not anecdotal at that point. Now we have case studies, and we're putting all this together, and it's amazing how Dr. Ludwig is doing amazing work, and all these people that we respect, that we know I know their integrity. I've seen these guys. I've had been at meetings with them, and I see their integrity and what they want to do the right thing. And so when you're surrounded people like that, it's unbelievable without an agenda, because Ben's not getting paid anymore by what you're eating. He wants to save lives and help people, and that's his calling, just like ours is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really cool to see the science coming in and backing this up, because it seems like, just for me as a non-medical person, earlier in my life, it was always like, oh, that low carb diet, sure, you might lose weight, but you're going to mortgage your health in the process, and there's no science to back it up. And that was always the comeback on it. And so it's really cool to see the science coming in and confirming how beneficial this can be.
Yeah, and I think we already have data, and the problem is more science comes out every day, so the movie's outdated by the time it gets here, really, right? Because we have so much positive data, and I kind of tease with people. So I'm like, hey guys, can you stop publishing positive data at this point, because I need to catch up a little bit. I can't catch up. I have studies sitting on my desk that I've looked at the abstract, but I can't look at the study in detail because I just don't have time, because there's too many things going on, and there's too many great studies coming out that are confirming exactly what your movie is showing. So I think you really have to be under a rock somewhere not to see the data and not to see what's happening. And doctors who are doing this, every single one of them that we're bringing on the podcast is saying the same thing. They're seeing the same data. And it's almost to the point where someone made a joke that they're tired of me and Andy Fung and Unwin's like, this is getting redundant, guys. You keep posting all these people reversing diabetes. It's like when Trump said you're going to get tired of winning and win. And we're seeing that all the time. Patients are coming in. We have job satisfaction. It made me change my career path completely, saying, look, I want to focus and I want to invest in people who want to get healthier and want to do better. And I'm bringing in Kristen Bear, and we're going to do it together. And she's outstanding. Yeah. So when you see what the impact we can have working with bariatric surgery, orthopedic surgeons that can't, they can't clear people for surgery because they're too large. So if we can help them for 3 months, send them on their way back to their old doc, and then guess what? It's going to send a message to their doc too, what's happening, that it is possible. Right. Because Dr. Unwin talks about the power of hope, and your movie brings the power of hope. It brings that other people can do it. How come I can't do it? Well, because your doctor may not understand it. Do you get rid of your doc? I don't think so. I think if you can try to teach your doc and train them, just like I had to get taught by my patients and then start looking in that area, Again, the advantage I have is I've always struggled with my obesity, diet stuff. Not like Dro, but Dro was his story is unbelievable. When you look at him, think, my gosh, he could be a whole chapter in your movie too.
Yeah.
But when you see that and you see people, their lives change, when you see a testimony, it does something, because you realize there's hope, and there's that we can do better.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, yeah. I really would love to just get this film out and let it be a calling card, and let it be a tipping point. I hope to help people see how this can help them.
Yeah. So
So
how are you getting it out there? I know, because I was in the movie and my patients we're getting some special treatment here in San Diego. I know, getting it into Foothills Church. And what's ironic about that is Foothills Church. And again, people who know me, but I've spoken for free at every talk I've given. I've donated tons of time. Why? Because I believe in the cause and I believe in it. So at Foothills, we did a 7-week program of low carb keto. To this date, was the most attended, as far as I know. Kevin will call me. Kevin Miller, who's a Patreon supporter, may call me, because I know he listens to every episode. He said, "No, Brian, it's not." So I'll make a correction if it is. But so many people came to that. I was overwhelmed by it, and we all volunteered our time. Bret Scher was one of the speakers, and he did that. Jeff Cotterman from Tri-System Nutrition volunteered his time. And so a lot of people who believe in the cause were there. And now guess what? They're going to be showing this film at Foothills, where it all started. That they were kind enough. They let us do it for free. They let us use their lecture hall. I mean, their sanctuary, and we had to move it because it got so crowded. We had to move into a bigger facility to go into the main sanctuary. And Jen, you've been there because we filmed some of the show there, and some of those guys are in it. It's pretty impressive how it's all come around, and now it's incredible. Back then, no one heard of keto, low carb, all this stuff. Now it's like all you hear about, and I was fearful of that happening, and it's happening, because now you get all this crazy talk, and they make it super complicated. It's like, eat real food, eat real food, and take care of yourself, and don't be stressed out, and get enough sleep. And it's a big picture story of lifestyle. There's no drug that does that, and all we're doing now in Western medicine is throwing a drug at each symptom rather than looking at the root cause.
mhm. Right, right. Yeah, Sarah Hallberg says, stop using medicine to treat food.
Exactly right. We're
Yeah.
using that's the most frustrating thing is I get into an endocrinologist who are worried about sugars going low if they're not eating carbs. I said, get rid of the insulin. Their sugar's never going to go low. You're shooting them with insulin, then you're giving carbs to treat the insulin, not the patient. And that's why we get frustrated, because if our patients, and Tro is the best of the world at doing this, in my opinion. Knowing him and looking at his data, I am stunned. And I'm going to be replicating Tro. I'm a little copycat with him, because he has 24-hour glucose monitor. It's no longer a guessing game. You cannot start tapering someone's insulin, not know what their insulin level is, and not knowing their weight and blood pressure and how everything's changing. So when we can monitor you 24/7 like Big Brother, guess what? You're going to think twice before eating a cookie. If you want to have success, if you want to lose weight, having Big Brother sitting there is a great, that's what Weight Watchers does, but that's once a week. We can do it 24/7. Whenever you check it, we can say, uh-oh, something's wrong, right? So Tro is the best in the world at this stuff, and the safest in the world of doing this, because he's monitoring his patients. He'll get texted if it's a low sugar or high sugar, and we know we have to make an intervention at that point before it's a disaster.
Mhm.
If Alcoholics Anonymous can do that, when you have your first drink, boom, how many people are not going to go on a bender?
Yeah.
Either that or they're in denial, and you don't want help, and then we can't help you at that point. But anyway, sorry, I go on tires because I get so excited about this stuff. But I think the big thing is your movie is going to help a lot of, it's going to save lives like crazy. I can't even imagine the impact it's going to have. But
I hope.
again, how do churches or people, are they taking a risk if they decide they want to have a showing in their town? I know a lot of people who listen to the podcast are going to be super interested in being a part of this. How do
So
they get it shown at their church or at their community center or at the movies, or I don't know anything about that part of it. I just show up and talk. Whenever it's showing in San Diego, I will be there if I can be.
thank
If
you.
I'm not in Guatemala jungle somewhere,
Okay,
in April. But
that's
other than that,
fantastic.
I'll be around.
Yeah, so we signed up with a distribution platform. It's called FanForce, and the website is fan-force.com. And anyone, anywhere can log on to that website, look for our film, and sign up to host a screening in their town. And literally, they're all over the world. So if you're in Australia, if you're in the UK, if you're in New Zealand or South Africa or the United States, you just hop on this website. It takes about literally 5 minutes to sign up and host a screening at your local cinema Or you can also ask for alternative venues. They're kind of geared for cinemas, but you can also ask to host a screening at an alternative venue like a church or a community center. And then FanForce does all the work. They contact the cinema, they get the movie to the cinema, they set up an event page on Facebook, and they sell tickets through the FanForce site. So it becomes very simple for the person who signs up to host a screening. They just go online, sign up, ask to host a screening, and then FanForce does all the back end work and then basically sends them links to where they can share the information about the screening and people can buy tickets. There is a minimum requirement, like it varies from venue to venue, but it's usually like around 50 tickets need to be sold to cover the cost of the venue. And once those 50 tickets are sold, they call that the tipping point. And then the screening is confirmed and it's booked. If for some reason 50 tickets don't sell, not enough people want to go, well, then the screening's just canceled, no one is charged, and no harm, no foul. So it's a no risk proposition, and if you really this is a way that we feel the reason why we're doing this first before going to the streaming platforms, because later on, later this summer or fall, the film will end up on Amazon and iTunes and all the streaming platforms. But we really wanted to do this first because we feel like it could help reach a larger audience that might not otherwise have a chance to see the film, or kind of break outside of the low carb community, like what you're doing with the screenings at your church and your community churches, is getting this message out to people who might not have stumbled onto it on their own. So that's why we'd like to do the fan-driven screenings. We really hope that people who sign up to host the screenings in their communities will also set up a Q&A afterward, and there is that opportunity. Like you're doing in the San Diego area, there's going to be questions after the film is over, and how wonderful it would be for those audience members to have somebody educated there to be able to talk to them more about low carb and insulin and why it matters and what you can do. So we're really hopeful that we can get a lot of folks all over the United States and around the world to sign up for those screenings and get this film out there in a big way.
Yeah, and I think it's important. There's so much important stuff we're learning on the podcast, and what's the vested interest? Well, for me, obviously, I'm starting a new practice, so there's going to be a certain percentage of people that come to the screens to say, I want you as my doc, or they want Kristen, who's my partner, as their doc. So I do get some interest in that way, because I want to have people who understand the stuff, and then I'm not starting from the scratch. It makes my life a lot easier, and they're motivated people who want to get better. The other thing I see is that people will be able to take this back to when they see it, they're going to want to have it, and they're going to have 10 people in their mind. They're going to say, this would really help that person. And so that helps Jen out, because she'll do better, because you're going to take it back and you're going to say, oh my goodness, I've seen this. This is not a propaganda piece. This is real life, and this is real data. And this is where we've been, told the wrong thing for so long, and we're doing what we're told, and we're getting worse. And we all are, trust me, I was super frustrated. Like I always say, is when I saw Jason Fung, I said, if this guy's right, I'm going to be super pissed. Really, I don't say pissed very often, but I did say that, because if this guy's right and he doesn't have an agenda, and I know his integrity now that we're friends, it's incredible. Now that New England Journal of Medicine comes out 8 years later and says, yep, he's right on every front. Here's 12 pages to tell you, why he's right and how it works. Now we understand what he was saying, that he knew was true, but we didn't have the data. Now we have a ton of data, and it's in our top journals. JAMA is talking about it. It's all over the place now. It's incredible. It's incredible the changes happen. We're just bandwagon kids jumping on the last couple of years, but the impact that this movie can have, I've seen it from day one when they came out. And the truth of the story is this: Jen reached out to me like 4 or 5 times, and I blew her off because I didn't have time. I'm too busy taking care of sick people to deal with being in some movie. But when I saw her heart, and I talked to Doug Reynolds, he goes, "Oh my gosh, Bret Scher's in it. It's really good." And I mean, they're doing great stuff. And then they came out, and I saw how they were filming it and the detail and how much effort they put into it. And I was blown away. And then when I saw the rough cut, I thought, holy cow, these guys did way better than what I thought it was gonna be some thrown together thing. And you think, I mean, this is top notch filmmaking. I mean, it really is. When you see it, it's like, wow. I watched it with my family, and they were just blown away by the data and the science. I didn't know that, and they were stunned, even though they live with me and they hear what I'm saying. They were stunned by the data and how it was all put together. And so that's why when you start seeing where medicine's going, what we're doing, and I'll buy a copy for every one of my partners and say, here you go, watch it. And if you don't agree, great, let's talk about it and let's have a meaningful dialogue. And so I think that's the thing, that the power I see of this. And this is why I'm taking your valuable time right now to tell you about it, because if it's a showing in your area, go. If you're a provider and you want patients who understand this stuff, go and talk, donate your time like I do for 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, because you're going to draw patients into you, and then you can educate them and help them, and they're going to go back and help their families. And what we need to do is have a groundswell. There's debate and argument about, okay, is it top up approach or bottom up, top down? Do we start with the guidelines to try to do it, or do you educate the people and have them demand the guidelines change? And I think it's both. I think both are very important, because the guidelines are what screwed up our society. That's why we can't recruit people for the military, like Jen points out. That's why people are sick. That's why our Medicare is going bankrupt, because we're looking at the wrong things. We're treating people the wrong way, and we could either keep driving into the brick wall and say, maybe I'll go around that brick wall at some point and change what I'm doing and see if it makes a difference. And that's what I had to do. That's what Tro had to do. And all of us who've taken heat along the way, this movie is a vindication for us too. That's my other selfish desire in this thing, is a lot of people say, look, these guys are not just, as a matter of fact, my daughter was told, your dad must not read any data because he can't. All the textbooks say the opposite of what he says. I'm exactly right. And if you write the textbook on flying a plane and every plane crashes, I'm going to write a new textbook that is going to teach the pilots how to fly the plane, right? I want my pilots to be like Raj, my friend who reversed his disaster situation on his own. He did it with and the sad part is, and Jason and I talk about this with him on the podcast. I got to surprise him anyways with Jason. That was super awesome. But the point is, he reversed it on his own. He took steps. He educated himself. Now, a word of warning to my patients and to patients out there. The most frustrating thing for your doctor is when they provide you with information and you don't follow up on it. And then you come back and ask the same questions again and again and again. And those are the patients that aren't going to come with me to the new practice, because I can't help you until you invest and say, okay, let me see if this guy's nuts or not. Let me look at Diet Doctor and what they have to offer. Let me listen to Tro's grand rounds on obesity, which is one of the best I've ever heard. And when you start educating yourself, then you can help yourself, because you can't rely on your doctor. You can't rely on your pastor to give you all the information. You have to go back and double check what they're saying. Double check me and come back and say, doc, you're wrong on this. And then I can change what I'm doing and learn from you too. It goes both ways. But that's the thing, is this movie is going to impact. And that's why from day one, I've been super excited about it. It's not just because I'm in it. I think that's kind of cool, but they almost killed me, by the way. They know about that. I almost stepped on a rattlesnake and died making this movie. So you got to go listen to it at least, when I almost died for these people. But anyways, it's super exciting. I'm so glad, Jen, to help in any way. And the other thing is, we're going to help Brian Sanders when his movie comes out. We're going to help everyone who's getting the word out, because we all have our part, right? When people are reasonable, if it's a bias piece, we can't do that, because our integrity matters. So I think when we see stuff and we have to review it first, and we say, yes, this is vetted, and we have no financial interest in it, then we will help out. If we have financial interest, we're going to say we have financial interest and not vet it or not talk about it on our podcast, because we all agreed to that.
Yeah.
So, I'm super excited. So we will put links to everything you're doing so that we can get the word out. And people really, I mean, if you're listening to us, we're going on 2 million downloads now. So, there's a lot of people listening. Doug Reynolds is doing the same thing. I know Sean Baker has a ton of reach, and we're going to do everything in our power to help out. And so, Jen, if you need help getting in touch with any of those people, if I can get Jason to use his mighty sword and get the word out, whatever we can do to help, because it's critical stuff. And yeah. Jason's in it too, and he's fantastic. I mean, I laugh. I just watch him. I love, because he just gets such joy in how wrong people are. He goes, "This is like idiotic, right? And he's one of the most brilliant guys on earth. But I mean, he shakes his head and laughs. I always smile with him because I know what he's thinking. Like, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Is like, it's common sense, guys. And why are you guys fighting this? So,
Yeah.
anyways, I just love. I mean, the people you have are all top notch. You know, on the film, and it's an honor. It was a super honor for me to be included in that list. So I'll have to take Bret Scher out for a steak or something because I appreciate him even mentioning me, because you never would have known what I'm. That's what I mean. There's so many people out there like me and Tro and Bret Scher who are doing their thing, and no one ever hears about them. And that's why we want to give them a platform to say, yeah, I'm doing this in Texas. And guess what? If 100 people go to them, you know, we Andy Fung, 80 people went to him because they heard him on the podcast and liked his approach, and they needed help. And now we can hook those guys up. I don't get a nickel from that. I did get a nice Christmas basket from Andy. Thank you for that. That was very nice of you. But because he appreciated that, and we didn't have to do that. But we want to help people, and we get good docs. It's not a competition thing. We want to get people out there teamed up with docs, and when we start saving America, saving the world, that's what we came to medicine to do. And then we look at Jason Fung. I mean, what he's accomplished and what he's done.
Yeah.
So, Jen, anything we could do to help, I'm so excited. Thanks for joining me, because I kind of pushed the issue to have you on because I think it's that important. I want our listeners to know that this is something you're not going to be embarrassed to take your friends and family and say, oh, it's okay. And they're like, well, they're going to leave there impacted. I know I was, and I know this stuff and I've looked at it, but I was impacted by the individual stories and what people have accomplished and what doctors are doing out there. And again, it's not because I hear it all the time where people, my doctor's an idiot, they don't get it. Well, they just don't know yet. I mean, educate them. And then if they say I'm not doing it, I don't care if all these people come off insulin and that, then okay, then you got to change docs. But give them a chance and try to educate them first. There's free CME that they're doing it through Diet Doctor, and tons of people are sacrificing their time, donating their time to make this happen. And that's kind of, I would highly recommend if there are low carb providers out there, nurse practitioners, PAs, nutritionists, RDs, whatever, get the word out, get it in your community. Then all of a sudden you're not the nutty one that's the only one that's doing it. I know cardiothoracic surgeons who are the only one in their community doing this, and all the primaries look at them like they're idiotic, but they've actually looked at the data, right? And they understand who they're doing surgeries on and who they're not doing surgeries on. So when these guys start jumping on board, all the arguments go out the door.
Yeah, and if they'll hop on and sign up to host the screening in their community, then it'll come right to your town, and then host that screening and start the conversation. Get people understanding. I mean, what a great baseline, I hope, for understanding for somebody to, if somebody was able to watch this film first thing before they walked into your office as a new patient, I would imagine that would be a great introduction to what you do. So if people can sign up to host these screenings in their town, it'll really get it out there.
And also pastors out there, I'm telling you, this is something that's really impacted Tro and myself. If you go back and listen to episode number 10, number 13, we're struggling a lot in the church with alcohol abuse, drug abuse, pornography, all these things. And what you find is, and it's remarkable, I've received letters from several people now they're running huge programs, and they say, when people get their diet right, all those other vices get better. It just does. They go, I'm seeing it. I go, what you said a year and a half ago is absolutely 100% right. And we took a lot of heat for that back then because we were observing it, but we didn't know the mechanism and why it is. Was it just a coincidence? And so when you start understanding how this all works, that's the implication. That is why if you want to have a healthier church, you want to have a healthier community, you want families to stick together, this does play a role. I mean, just yesterday, a huge study came out saying that people on a ketogenic diet, low carb diet, had better outlooks, more energy, better focus, better mood, less anxiety. It's like, okay, do we want to just throw pills at that, or do we want to try to hit the root cause and see if we can make some I'm not saying it cures everything. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is it doesn't hurt the situation. Taking away donuts and cookies has never caused anyone to have any major nutritional deficiencies, as far as I know, unless Jen knows of something with all your vast research.
No, I'll tell you what though. I mean, just an anecdote. My husband and I both switched to low carb, almost ketogenic. We're not always, that low, but definitely low carb about 2 years ago when I started this. And, we find both of us being a lot less crabby, like just at night when you've had a long day at work and you're coming home, you're trying to cook dinner, the kids are busy and needing things, and we just find that I just have so much more patience. I just feel so much more steady. So another anecdote there for you, but yeah, we've definitely felt the difference just from a stress level.
Yeah, even looking at Tro's tweets, his tweets are so much nicer and kinder now. I think the keto stuff's starting to kick in for my buddy over there. Yeah. And Tro just had surgery, and so we're keeping in our thoughts and prayers. And I just had a nice talk with him. He said he said he's walking on the treadmill at my speed right now so that he can recover. Like I'm like, thanks, man, appreciate it. He thinks I'm super old, you know, but I'm getting younger every day. I'm just loving this, Jen. I absolutely love what I do, and I love this what we're seeing in the podcast. And going to Denver, I'm so excited because we're going to see people who are changing their lives, and the testimonies and the stories. I would tell everyone, go to a local low carb meeting somewhere in the country that's close to you, that if cost an issue, drive there, whatever you can do, because it will really help you to see how people are doing and what great people are involved in this community. And again, I've met just about everyone, and I have not had anyone throw me a bad attitude or be uh, secretive about what they're doing. Like I said, Ben Bickman just said, "Here, Brian, take all my slides, wherever you want, just take it out and throw it in your presentation if you want to reinforce what I'm saying." I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? That is crazy stuff." Because it saves me some time, but also I know it's vetted, and I know what he does, and I look at his data, and it's stellar because I see it in my own patients. But having a smart guy who does this for research is unbelievable. But what I'm saying is, Ivor Cummins, all these people doing podcasts, listen to them all. We don't have to monopolize your time because you're going to get a different flavor from different people. So don't take what Tro and I say as the gospel. Say, let me go back and look at it. Let me see what Ivor Cummins says. Let me see if someone else, because we may change our views. Say, hey, 2 years ago we were wrong. We're not zealots. And I think with the thing is, when you start looking, is that, yeah, can Jen have more carbs? Absolutely. She's thin, fit, active, and taking care of herself and not stressed out like me, then she can get away with a lot more. Sean Baker, do you think he can't eat more carbs than me? Absolutely. He has a huge muscle train, right? He could put a lot of people on the muscles. That's not going to hurt you. So there's a lot of stuff like that when you start understanding it's not a one size fits all. It's that patient in front of you, and that we have to be reasonable, and we have to say, okay, this isn't working. We got to cut your carbs a little more. We might have to do intermittent fasting. We may have to get you doing Ben's workout, which I love, because they all fit together synergistically. And so when you listen to all the experts and they're telling you data's, the data that they've been giving you is incorrect, and here's why, and we have clinical success, and people aren't crashing on takeoff all the time, then you start seeing landing the plane safely, say, okay, this is a pretty good pilot, I'll trust the guy. So anyways, there's a huge, and again, the other thing that Jen's treating that people don't realize, and I can tell you firsthand, is physician burnout. After practicing 17 years, I wasn't enjoying what I was doing anymore because I was constantly beaten down and busy. But when you see those people, like Thursday this week, I had 5 people come in, all have miracles that have happened over the last couple of months. One guy I've given up on 30 times, and I just so annoyed by him. And I saw that his A1C didn't drop that much, and I was annoyed already before he came in. And guess what? He lost 26 pounds. He's off all insulin, and his A1C is coming down. In 6 weeks, he dropped his A1C significantly, especially coming off of insulin.
Yeah.
And he gets it. He understands that he's got to cut his carbs. He's doing it, intermittent fasting, time restricted eating, and he goes, "Doc, this is the best I've felt in years." And you don't think that gives me job satisfaction? Instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, we got to put another med, we got this, now you got to do this." And so what happens is we become very good at throwing meds at you very quickly and getting you out the door, and that's what we're trained to do. That's the problem. Now we have to say, now we have to use our brain and think, okay, why do we have them on this med? Can we reduce the quantity? Can we start tapering that down? Yes, if the patient's doing what they need to do. Problem with the patient is they've been told the wrong thing for years and years and years. Now they don't know what to believe, because it's like, you're telling me the exact opposite of what I've been doing. Well, it's not working. It's not working. So we got to change something. So it's all that, Jen. I think it's so exciting. Your movie is it's stellar, and it's really going to impact lives, and it makes my job easy, because you know what? I'll tell all my patients, part of your homework, watch this movie. Just like I tell them right now, watch The Magic Pill, watch that sugar film, watch these other things that have come out that just show, hey, look, here's what's happening when you're eating heart healthy whole wheat all the time. This is the implications. So people can try it. If it doesn't work, then we take another tact. We're not totally married to that. So we got to just figure out what works for that patient, how to motivate that patient. And you have to understand, and this is what I told my daughter today, you have to understand the addiction of carbohydrates. It's just like if you tell someone they shouldn't drink and they're alcoholic, they get super unhappy with you about that. Like, it doesn't hurt me, it's fine. Well, it's not fine because you're drunk all the time and you can't function in life, and you got fired from 4 jobs. It's not working for you. So it's the same thing when you tell a nutritionist who's hooked on carbs that carbs are bad. Then all of a sudden they get super defensive and yell at you instead of saying, yeah, maybe I should look at that. That may not be the best thing to have brownies for breakfast when I'm a nutritionist, right? It's the common sense of that we know. It's like, if you have eggs for breakfast with a bunch of spinach, you're going to be a heck of a lot healthier, happier, and you're not going to be starving all day and having to be forced to run on kindling all day. You run on coal instead, right? So you can go farther between stations of filling up. You can you know, have satiety and not be struggling. And so this whole calories model, do calories matter? Yes. But satiety matters even more. If you're not hungry all the time and starving, you're not going to be eating all day. And that's what Jen's showing. And that's what the movie shows also. You know, Jason Fung, obviously, is one of the smartest guys on earth doing this. So, you know, just I'm super excited. I'm rambling because I'm super excited about what this film is, and really I wanted people to understand that this is why I've been pushing it. This is why whenever I can tweet about it or I can put something on Facebook, because it's going to save lives and it's turning the tide. We've been sitting here patiently waiting for this movies like this, and Jen put the hard work in. And, you know, first thing, she knows I grilled her. I said, why are you doing this film? What are your motivations? Why, you know, and she answered all the questions exactly the way I would want to hear the answer from a reasonable person. And maybe she tricked me, but no, I'm just kidding. I know you. But, you know, what would you like to tell people that I haven't blabbed about regarding the film, that in closing, to say what it means to you and your family and your
Yeah.
community?
Well, you know, I don't. I think there's a lot of people out there that have been touched by type 2 diabetes and the obesity epidemic in this country. You know, I have a brother-in-law who died from complications of type 2 diabetes just last year. Um, we have a very close family friend, who's been a very close friend of my parents growing up, who's had to have both of his legs amputated below the knee from type 2 diabetes. And I just really hope that the film helps people see what they can do to take control of their health, because I feel like we've been told the wrong thing for so many years. And so I that's just my hope. And my hope with the film is that people will see it, that a light bulb will go off, and that people will be able to take control of their health without any expensive medications, without any expensive machines or gadgets or any of that stuff. It's just all about eating real food, and so there's no gimmick. And luckily for me as a filmmaker, there are people out there doing the hard science, doing the hard work, like you, Brian, who were willing to spend the time and be in the film, so that we could tell the story. So that's really my hope. I really hope people can walk away with hope and an idea of how they could turn around their health and get their health back.
Yeah, and I think, in closing, I think, I want to share something that really impacted me. The day after I resigned from my job, saying I want to really focus on metabolic health and really help this. I got a call from Guatemala. A good friend of mine who I volunteer with down there called me and said, "Hey, Brian, do you remember this certain guy?" And he was a professional soccer player. He is like their Pele. He's a super famous guy. I was out to dinner 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago or so, and sat down with two of them. They're both diabetic now, right? And I said, hey, they were asking me how to control their sugars, and I told them both. One followed my recommendation. He's off all meds. He's playing soccer with kids still, and he's out very active. The other guy had his foot amputated. They called me to let me know, he had his foot amputated. One of their top soccer players in the world had his foot amputated because he chose to have cookies and donuts and cake rather than take care of his health. The problem is we all think, oh, I'll just turn the corner. It's just like smoking. We say, oh, I'll wait till I get lung cancer, then I'll quit smoking. Really? Is that when you want to quit? It's one of those things. Once it happens, it's irreversible. You can't take away the neuropathy and the ulcers and all the pain and the dialysis and all that kind of stuff. I've seen people avert disasters, and I've seen enough people that we have the satisfaction of knowing that they were going down the same road, but they have 2 feet still because they chose to listen, right? The other guy is still, I'm going to go see him when I'm there in Guatemala too, and I'll see both of them probably, and it will be different interactions because it's very sad for me. I would never say I told you so, but when you keep going down the same road, you have to change what you're doing when your sugars are out of control, because
Mhm.
now he's going blind. Now he's got all the stuff we can predict. I don't have to be that smart. I've seen the disease enough, and that's why we're passionate about what we do. Tro and I are very passionate. All of us are, because Jen's seen it too. You've seen the amputations. You've seen the lives that are just suffering and miserable. I see it from a cost to the system, and I see physicians burned out, because when you have this happen over and over and over and you're helpless, the doctor's not a bad person. They're just overwhelmed by sick people, and that's the problem. We have too many sick people, and it's overwhelming our healthcare system, our ERs, our hospitals, because we have to make a change. And that's why I'm excited about your movie, because I think if people listen, they take this to heart, we won't have a 4-hour wait, 6-hour wait in the ER to be seen. I mean, we're going to see traumas, and that's what the ER was for before. But now it's just filled with sick people that are, have sugars out of control, and they're having obesity problems where they can't get through the door, they can't get out. I hear stories from frontline firemen, and they can't get people out the doors. They can't even fit out the door. They have to rip the door out to get someone out of the house. And so this is devastating. Our society cannot exist this way. And it's not fat shaming. It's just the reality of the illnesses that come with it. And I think this movie is just going to draw attention to it. And so again, every showing in San Diego that anyone does, if it's if it's in Arizona, I'll fly out there. I'll come out there and help if I can, because it's really important. But what I'm hoping is that people in the community step up and say, yeah, I've been doing this kind of medicine. Let me host it, and I'll do the Q&A afterwards. And so it's so exciting. Or just making that phone call, or text or email, whatever you have to do to get a showing close by, because I truly believe in this, and I hope more people will watch it, and then they're going to want to do something in their community once they see it, because everyone I've seen the film with has been blown away. I know some of the people that were in it, and all of them are saying, wow, they did a great job on this. So Jen, kudos to you. This is really is important work. Is It's not some movie that you watch and you forget about. It will change your views, and it'll reinforce what you've believed. And the success you have, you'll understand. And for people who gave up super quickly, you'll say, I should go back and try that again, and try it the right way, and have people around me who can help. Again, health coaches are calling me left and right saying, hey, I want to help people, I want to do this, and they're excited because they're seeing the results that people are having. And it's not about, I'm going to step back one more time and let people know, don't worry about the weight loss part of it. It's metabolic health, it's longevity. Ben Bickman says the same thing. Dr. Unwin, Ivor Cummins, all of us are saying the same thing. It's really not about weight loss. You can cut off your left leg and you'll lose 25% of your body weight, right? You can lose all your muscle mass and you'll lose weight. Is that how you want to do it? If you gain 20 pounds of muscle, are you going to be upset? No, you're metabolically healthy. You're going to live longer. The data shows that. So anyways, I don't want to harp too long, but thank you, Jen, so much. I so much appreciate you coming on, taking the time out of your Saturday, and anything we can do. I get goosebumps thinking about this film, and I'm so excited about those brains that are going to change. That light bulb goes off and say, oh my gosh, it makes sense to me now. All this stuff they're harping about now makes sense. It's not about eating all the fat you can eat. It's not about all this crazy talk that's happening out there. It's about having a nutritionally sound diet, and lifestyle, and decrease your stress, and laugh more and have fun. So one day I'm going to sit down with Jen and her whole crew, and we're going to have fun and talk and chit chat. Are you going to be in Denver, by the way?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, we'll see you there. I'm going to see you in a couple of days.
We'll see you. We'll
I
see
hope
you.
my talk's not a total train wreck, and then you go, oh, Brian, don't promote us anymore.
Stop it.
You're hurting our business.
No, I'm
Just
looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing you and Tro and everyone else who's gonna.
Well, Tro's ditching us. He's faking an injury. Yeah, he got his neck fixed, so they won't let him fly, so he's stuck. So it saved me money because I was gonna have to get a babysitter, so it's perfect. Perfect. I save money. I get to hang out with the adults. It's gonna be really nice. I'm gonna be at the big people table and everything.
Well,
I think.
perfect.
So.
Well, I'll look forward to seeing you there, and looking forward to sharing the film with that.
Yeah, that's right. You and I are talking about the film there. So great. Yeah, what an honor. I'm so glad I get to hang out with you and stuff. So, hey everyone, thanks for letting me ramble. But I hope my heart comes through. I hope you hear what we're talking about, why we're so passionate about it, and again, get it back to your doctor. Buy your doctor a copy. It will cost you. I don't know, Jen. What's the movie going to cost? You think once they get the video on demand? Can they get a hard copy of it too?
Not yet. So first we'll do these fan-driven screenings on fanforce.com, and then it'll go to Amazon, the streaming platforms, and you'll be able to watch it. I think it'll be $5 or something once it hits streaming. But that'll be a ways out. So we first really want to get it out in these theaters and really get it out to communities and do these Q&As and really try to get this message out that way first. So
Yeah, and I think that's it. And video on demand, it's kind of like everyone does MP3s now and all that kind of stuff instead of doing like vinyl, like that's all like 8 tracks and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's just the way it's going. So pay the video on demand. Say I'll give you $8, watch the movie. You can buy not popcorn. What do you buy some keto stuff? Go buy some burger without the French fries in the. So, anyways, do it. Just I'll pay for it, watch it, and we'll talk about it because I think it's really, really that well done and that important that docs will say, "Oh my God, goodness, this is like super cool stuff," and at least they'll be interested to look at the data and see if it's BS or not. And I think that's really important for all of us. So, anyways, everyone, thanks for listening. Greatly appreciate it. And I'm super excited to talk to anyone who wants to come, and we will have in the show notes, and I'll probably do a little blurb once I know the exact date. It's going to be in the next couple of weeks after Denver. We're going to have some free reign to show it here in San Diego. So I'm excited, and I might even send a copy of this podcast to some of the pastors in town before it comes out, so that I can try to twist their arm to show it, because I think I know they're going to be very impressed, and it's going to benefit their church and their community. So thank you all for listening. Appreciate it. Jen, thank you. Awesome.
thank you, Brian.